Welcome back to another episode of Nothing's Off the Table. I got my boy Charlie Walk here in the house. Dear family friend who's been a mentor to me. You've also stuck with me personally through some pretty rough times that I was going through, and always showed your love and support and cared for me. And when I was doing well, always tried to help me and plug and connect dots for me. And you know, you've also had a tremendous story. You've had a lot of ups. You've had some pretty surreal moments career-wise, working with literally the biggest artists in the entire world.
Yes.
Taylor Swift, Jennifer Lopez, Madonna. Who else?
I mean, Ariana Grande,
The
Post
Weeknd.
Malone, The Weeknd,
There we go.
Mariah Carey, the Fugees signing Nipsey Hussle. I mean, I've pretty much everyone in pop culture I've got to spend. Bruce Springsteen, I got to spend time with him, work. Billy Joel, Aerosmith when I was in my early 20s, launching New Kids on the Block when I was 21. I mean, it's the first boy band to break since the Beatles, if you really think about that era. And so I look back now, and I'm relatively young, but I have been more cerebral thinking about some of the efforts that I got to do with myself and our teams along the way to move culture. And then I've also realized that my gift is being the lonely guy in the room that can identify talent, not just musicians, but anyone that I believe has, you know, you've heard my podcast, that starship that they've identified their God-given thing that makes them different and unique and allows them to monetize and give back and move culture in their own way. So I'm sort of like now sitting back, looking at some of the things that I've done and even mistakes that I've made and acknowledging like what I guess my superpower would be, if that makes sense. Like when I met you, through good and for bad, you have great parents and you have a good soul and you're a killer and you're a hustler and you're a money maker. And then along the way, you got a little lost, right?
Yep.
But you were still the same person behind your moment of lapse, right?
Yes.
When you went the wrong direction. I always knew you were going to come back. I remember talking to your mom and dad. Sometimes I would text your mom while she was on the air. She's a very good texter while she's on the air. Or your dad, who would be concerned about you during those times. But I said, he's going to be fine. You think so? Uh-huh. The kid's going to pull through, and you have.
Yeah.
And so I was right. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like some people don't. Some people don't, and you did. So I'm happy to be here and, you know, talk about whatever you want to talk about and you know, just let people be able to learn and understand that life is a journey and also life is now.
Yes, I think so. I think what's most important to me is like, you know, people with Instagram, social media and everything, people always see like people at their best, right? They see you on the yachts, they see you driving Ferraris, they see the nice watches and but they also don't see like this person started out most of the time with nothing. And, you know, in your case, I feel like I know you very well, but I don't know you that well in the sense of like, what was your upbringing like? Where'd you grow up? How'd you get into the music business? How did you become president of Epic Records and then president of Republic Records? Like, what was that grind like to get there? Because you didn't just wake up and say, oh, you know what? I'm going to be the CEO of literally the biggest music label in the entire world with the best artists in the world. There was obviously a grind with a lot of ups and downs. And I'd love to hear, you know, how you got there, and then we can take it from there.
I knew I was quote unquote Charlie Walk at 8 years old. You know, my father's a big dentist in a local town called Newton outside of Boston. My mother's a school teacher teaching English as a second language. And I knew at 8 years old, I was a tortured soul. I knew I needed to get the out of there, or else I was going to end up in the 5 mile radius. My nightmare was ending up like every other family generationally, right? That lives in that 5 mile radius, watches the news at 5:30 or 6 and has, you know, supper. And I didn't want supper. I didn't want to watch the news. I wanted to get out of there and get to Hollywood. It really at 8 years old, I was tortured. I wasn't playing football. I'm little. My sport was like entertainment and music, and I needed to figure out. I'm in math and science and history, right? In 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. I knew that this is the wrong thing, the wrong situation for me, because I found myself listening to a transistor radio at 8 years old and picking the hits, listening to a little AM radio the big station in Boston was picking songs and doing make it or break it's and stuff. And I had this weird knack of hearing hit records and getting like goosebumps when something was a hit, a repetitive chorus that touched me, which meant that funnel would touch the masses. And so my journey was like, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I getting out of this? And so as I got older, I played in bands and I learned the drums and I learned to sing, but I was really more interested in like not being famous, but being the man behind the star, being the person to control culture by picking great talent. And so I said, the only way to do this is to get internships. Like the only way, and at that time there was two funnels in the music business. There was radio stations that played the records that you heard. So that the funnel was FM radio when I was a teen. It's like, I need to go to the number one pop station in Boston and get in there and learn that. Who's making the decisions there and learn that. And then who's promoting them? Who's promoting them to get those songs and artists heard? Well, that would be the record companies. So I had a two-prong approach while I was going to Boston University freshman year, and I found my way to get an internship at Kiss 108 FM, the biggest pop station in America, and CBS Records that turned into Sony. Those two things taught me what to do and how to do it, and took my hustle to another level while I'm getting a business degree, right? While everyone's partying in fraternities and getting banged out, I ended up like being an intern working with LL Cool J and Slick Rick into Alice in Chains, into meeting Billy Joel and Enrique Iglesias' father, Julio. Steven Tyler and I got to spend time together. And then I got New Kids on the Block. New Kids on the Block was a local Boston group where I had to figure out how to break them. That was an exercise they gave me as a college rep. There was no social media. There was no MTV at that time. It was probably the beginning of. There was no way to create hype. So the challenge was like, what do you do? Well, what do? You get mothers and daughters. As long as there's mothers and daughters and little girls that love boys, right? If you can get them in the circumference of Boston and build that regionally, you can break the group, right? Hand to hand, street combat, street fighting. And I came up with the solution for the problem. How do you make them famous before you get radio play? And that was sort of everything I've done with Hooker. How do you take something you believe in that has the right TAM? TAM means total addressable market. There was no one touching the boy band era because it didn't exist since the Beatles, right? Think about it. The new kids followed the Beatles in America. Really think about that. That's
crazy.
Right? And that's what I was thinking about. There's, again, no TikTok, no Instagram, no YouTube, just sort of me out there thinking about mothers and daughters and boys. And so I learned very quickly how to get really good at breaking things that I believed in. So trusting my gut before data, right? Think about that, gut before. Everyone looks at the same data now. I say this over and over again. Everyone's looking at the same data. So, okay, if you're looking at the same data, then someone's going to overpay for something because they all are seeing the same thing. So that's just a money game. My thing was like, well, I believe in you. I may believe in you more than you believe in you, but I see the opportunity of what it can be. I can shut my eyes sometimes and see you, artist, playing at the time Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami 3 nights and doing 270,000 people because I see it and I manifest it. Right.
That's always been your big thing that I loved, which is like believe in the person, not the numbers.
Bet on the jockey. Yeah. Not the horse. Yeah. And I've been doing that with brands now too, interestingly enough. It's the same sort of feeling. So you have to accept what your talent is. I am not Tom Brady. I am not a good football player, soccer, hockey, but I'm really good at that. And as you get older, you get more confidence and realize, well, fuck, I did this. I need to embrace more of this. And along the way, yeah, mistakes were made. I picked some of the wrong shit. But more often than not, I've been right because I've been strong on not doing committees. Committees are committees. Like, what do you think of the song? I don't care what you think of the song.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When we did songs like Shakira Hips Don't Lie, we made that with Clef. I played it for my staff. They hated it.
No way.
All their eyes are looking like this and they're looking down and all the whole thing. And I'm like, I just came out of the studio and I'm playing you a #1 global Latin crossover smash. We are changing our numbers. We are changing our fourth quarter results. We are changing Latin culture. Now we can play the middle. We can play Cleveland. We can play Minneapolis, right? We're not tri-coastal New York, Miami, LA. We are going to change Latin crossover music with the song, and no one would look at me.
And your staff was like, Charlie.
I'm president of the company at the time. I'm 31 years old, president of Epic Records.
And they're like,
they
Charlie.
wouldn't look at me. No, they wouldn't look at me.
Oh,
because they can't say they didn't like it because I'm the president. So it's like this. I'm like, what's the matter, Tommy? You don't like it? Jacqueline, you don't like it? You don't like the vibe? And I said, I'm going to go to LA and break this on 1027 Kiss FM myself. And I went to LA and put it on the 9 at 9. At the time, radio ran the world. You could know really quick if the song was hitting up by putting it on, make it or break it, the top 9 at 9, and then call in or text us or whatever it was. It was more calling. I don't even think cell phones were really that big back in the day. And number one phones. We would say number one phones mean thousands of people called to hear the song again. That meant somebody liked it. And then I went back and I said, you all should go fuck yourselves. But the real lesson was, right? The real lesson was committees. And for me,
believing in yourself.
Yeah. And if I feel it, like that's my gift. Again, I'm not a good accountant. I'm not a good operator. I'm more creative than anything else. And I can't be all things to all people, but I'm pretty good at looking someone in the eye and understanding who they are and believing in them or not.
Yeah.
Or not.
And I feel like you're okay with making mistakes. Like if you were wrong about Shakira, Hips Don't Lie, you would have slept well at night knowing that like you believed in it. You did everything in your power to break that song. And it just didn't work out.
You're saying it very nicely. I think I would really be pissed off and aggravated about things that didn't work. But yes, I would accept it eventually.
Yeah.
We had a group. I remember we were breaking. So the Jonas Brothers was a group I've worked with for years. And we sort of brought Nick Jonas into a huge solo situation years after they broke up. And I remember going to Vegas to sit with Joe Jonas, who was DJing, and he was depressed and down. And I'm saying to myself, well, if Nick's breaking, imagine if we could take Joe and create a group around him and break him. And the whole company didn't believe. My boss at the time, I won't say his name due to NDAs, said to me, an old Leor Cohen quote. My boss said to me, you want to sign Joe Jonas? Don't dust off the old bums. I'm like, he's 28. No one cares. And we're breaking Nick. Imagine if we broke Joe here, Nick here. What happens? The Jonas Brothers 2.0, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's math. That's simple math.
Yes.
1 + 1 is 3. 3 boys, Jonas Brothers, right? So I get with them, our A&R team. We make a song called Cake by the Ocean. We put it out, world premiere, iHeartMedia, hype, the whole thing. It's a Charlie Walk record, I was told, right? Oh, that's Charlie's project. I remember hearing that in the hallways, like wanting it to fail. The actual company inside, as I'm president, my bosses wanted it to fail. Okay? Well, guess what? It went out and it failed.
Smash.
No, hold on. It went out on like 150 stations, all the TV, all the marketing, all the media. Joe Jonas was dating Gigi Hadid at the time. They put the fat Jew in the video at the time who was hot.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. No consumption. Consumption means streams.
Yeah.
iTunes sales. Big stiff, it felt like. But I'm like, dun, 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 dun. Like to me, like just the music and the I keep on, like there's no way this is not a hit. Something's not working.
Yeah.
It's not working on the radio. It doesn't mean it's not a hit. And we were like $700,000 in, and I'm like being laughed at. I remember being at Saturday Night Live with another, and people were just laughing at me. So, and I'm telling you this for a reason, why I only really give a shit about what I think and for whatever it's worth. At the beginning, meaning not I'll accept defeat. If people hate something,
yeah,
I'm cool. But at the beginning, I'm gonna have a meeting with myself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna meet with me. I'm gonna look in the mirror and have a meeting with me right here. So someone in our sync department took the song 6 months later and put it into a Sprint mobile commercial. Just the audio. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. And that night when the commercial aired, we had something called Shazam that Apple bought. We have a Shazam board. And we could see the United States of America light up with people holding their devices up to the TV of this song being Shazammed. Left to right, New York through middle America to the left coast. And now we knew People like it. And then from there, radio went back on to play it. And it became a #1 record. I think, I don't know, we sold 30 or 40 million records and made hundreds of millions of dollars. And that led to what we had in the contract for Joe was if the Jonas Brothers were to get back together, they'd be on our label, Republic.
Yeah.
And they did. A song called Sucker came out and it became a #1 record. And that was the journey of it all. Like the idea was like this, put it together, have a vision, and don't listen to the noise. My boss said, don't dust off the old bums. I'll let you do it. I respect him for saying to me, go do it, but don't dust off the old bums. Do you understand?
It's crazy that you were like in that position. Like you're president of Republic Records and you're saying like, guys, like we're doing this. And then you have everyone in the office, including your bosses, doubting you.
I felt it. And you know, it was that unsaid feeling of like, we want you to fail or it's not going to work and we're going to teach you a lesson. I felt that. And by the way, no disrespect to them, but my whole career, when I write the book, The Lonely Boy in the Room, is based upon most people being scared to have an opinion or to fight for something or to make it rain when it's sunny out. Does that make sense? And I think that's just my personality. And maybe I'm not fit for corporate America because I'm like this weird entrepreneur that doesn't fit into the box of like fighting to save their job. Like I never fought to save my job. I fought to save artists and break artists.
Yeah. I remember there was a period of time where I was doing music and I was managing this kid, Lil Benny.
I remember. That was an almost.
I remember when I started, I called you and I was like, bro, I was like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
That's true.
And you were just like, bro, you just got to do it. And I was like, I wanted more because I had no fucking idea what I was doing. But I also like, that was like, I remember you texting me that, just being like, you just got to do it. And I remember just being like, I have to go with what my gut is telling me. And like what I knew at that time wasn't really music. What I knew was marketing and promotion and like how to get someone going viral on Instagram, or TikTok was not even around then. It was like Snapchat and Instagram and YouTube and Spotify and, you know, Spotify playlisting and that kind of stuff. And I kind of just like utilized my connections to kind of get some type of like fire going under this kid. And we did. And like his first 3 tracks were like all over 1 million streams. And this was a kid that literally, when I found him, he had 8,000 followers on Instagram. And by the time we were done, you know, a year later, he had 60,000 followers on Instagram.
Your gut was right.
The other thing though, which you always say a lot and you post on your socials a lot, is the manager can't work harder than the artist.
You can't want it more than the artist.
You can't want it more than the artist. And that's kind of where it went. And listen, I love Lil Benny. He was 18 when he moved across the country. He moved into my house with me in LA. And all we were doing was wake up, breakfast, chill for an hour or two, studio from 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. all the way until 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And we would just sit there, make music, cut, new, this, that, the other thing, all day long, all night long. And I know I was burnt out at the end of that. And I know he was too. But I think the journey is where people learn a lot about themselves, right? And like that goes for anybody, whether it's an artist, musician, or just an entrepreneur or a human being. Like it's not about the end result. I think it's more so about the journey and what you can learn, because you can take what you learn from these journeys and apply it to your next thing, which your next thing might be the Shakira Hips Don't Lie or the Cake by the Ocean. You know what I mean? And like, I feel like for me personally, as an addict, an alcoholic, it took me 6 years to get 2.5 years sober.
That's actually a t-shirt.
6 years, Charlie, of me going in and out. I remember, and I was telling your friend before this, I was in Colombia. I was in Cartagena, Colombia, and I was in a full-blown drug psychosis. And you were calling me and you're like, yo, dude, you got to come home.
It's
like
true.
Your parents love you.
I
like,
told you, get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. You're like, yo, I love you.
No
Please
bueno.
come home. And I'm like, Charlie, blah, 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 da, da, da.
You were talking smack.
I was going crazy. I was in a drug psychosis, full-blown drug psychosis.
Then you did get out of there eventually, which is great.
I did. But that wasn't enough to keep me sober. I got sober for maybe 6 months and then I started drinking and using again. And it always ended in the same thing. But like once 2.5 years ago, once I got sober again, I was like, I had taken all this evidence from the last 6 years of chaos, destruction, and like just doing this or just doing that, whatever the case was. And I was like, I can't do anything. And now I'm going to take all of this knowledge and apply it to the only thing I have not tried fully yet, which is the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, being rigorously honest, and getting all my shit out there and doing some healing. And specifically for me, for that journey, my mom probably would hate to hear this, but I needed to do all of that. I needed all of those ups. And during that 6-year period, you remember I had a very successful concierge business. I was selling tickets, meet and greets. When you were at Republic, I was calling you for meet and greets with Taylor Swift. You're like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that.
That would have hit me hard. I would have got hit a crush for that.
But
those people are, assassins.
I was sober at that time, and then I was making all this money, and then I decided I don't need to do AA, and I went off the wagon. So I think the journeys in between the moment of when you think you found something all the way to the point of either success or failure, either way, it's a win.
I'll tell you something, I've had a lot of wins, but I've been recently reminded of them. I've blocked out. I'm so competitive. I've been trained to say, what have you done for me lately? To myself, even. I can sit here and tell you about my whole career and how I broke all these songs, and I signed Nipsey Hussle, which I posted yesterday, and people were going crazy. And someone asked me, why did you sign Nipsey Hussle? And I'm sure for some of your listeners or viewers, he was one of the great hip hop artists that got shot a few years ago.
Yeah.
And icon, do you agree?
100%.
And I signed him, at the beginning, and gave him $200,000 cash to sign him without listening to a note. And someone said to me, like, how could you sign someone without listening to a note? I said, because I didn't care about my years. I cared about his story coming from Compton, and I knew he would be the best storyteller in the world. What am I going to critique him on a chorus and a verse and a note? Yeah. Like, who the fuck am I? I'm a short Jew from Newton, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But I believed in him, and I looked him in the eye without hearing a note and signed him. And that's why we had this mutual respect of it goes back to believing in someone. But I even forgot I did that recently. So, you get reminded of you try to manage the ego. And I think at one point in my career, a few years ago, my ego was gonzo. In 2017, I was running the label. I had bosses. I was breaking every artist with our teams. And then I went on a TV show. And I was told, don't go on the TV show. It's the worst time to go on a TV show. I'm like, I want to be Simon Cowell. In my head, I just wanted to I know I could do it. And I got picked out of thousands of guys to do it. Like Dana Walden, who runs Fox and Disney for Bob Iger. And she picked me, and I went on it while I'm running the label, and the label did not want me to do it. And my friends and family said, don't go on it. You're going to get shot. People want to kill you. It's the worst time in our world in which if you're famous and you're successful, you will get shot. And I was very big on social media posting me on DJ Khaled's plane, drinking Cristal, and the Mercedes is pulling up with security and Beverly Hills. I was just out of my fucking mind. You know what happens? You promote that shit, right?
Yeah.
They want to kill you.
Yeah.
It's not cute.
Yeah, of course. Whenever you're doing well, there's always people. It's evil eye.
People want to fucking kill you.
Correct.
And so my shit was so crazy, so aspirationally crazy, ego-driven nuts. I'm on the show, and then one day someone came out and hit me. Okay. Said it was inappropriate from 2003. Yeah. Nothing ever happened, but didn't matter. No legal, no nothing. But that moment was...
That was canceled. That was the start of cancel culture.
That was the beginning. And you look back and nothing happened, but it did happen. What happened was I got shot.
Yeah.
And that's where you have a reset. And then it also made me realize lessons now in my career when I think about people like, why aren't you running a label again or working with artists again? And I sort of, shifted my mindset of well, maybe I just don't want to do artists anymore. They talk back at you. You can't own a human being. But maybe you can create platforms and own things that you believe can move culture. And if you put your efforts into it and you want a piece of it, it's very lucrative.
Yeah.
So I sort of shifted my mindset. And my mentor, for the years that always gave me that advice was Jimmy Iovine. And Jimmy Iovine, as you know, was the biggest music guy that created the whole movement of Dre and everything else, and the biggest stars in the world, and Eminem, and did movies and 8 Mile. But when he turned 59, he told me he sat with Dr. Dre, and he had an artist that came to see him while he was still CEO of Interscope. And the artist was 40, who he broke many years ago and was giving him shit about why is this song not working. And he got sick of it, of the artist talking back at him. And he went to Dre. Dre wanted to make sneakers. And he says to Dre, fuck sneakers, let's make speakers. And they created Beats by Dre.
Yep. $1 billion company.
He goes, we'll ship them one way and they won't talk back at you. 3.4 billion later, he was right. So I think I always had that in my head of like, okay, once I got shot and once I was like regigging my brain or rejigging my thought process on where do I go, I think I realized I probably even stayed in music too long just doing that when I'm really like this. I call myself now a cultural A&R guy, meaning things in culture that I believe in, a brand or the jockey of the horse of a brand or creating a platform is more interesting to me. And then you have more control over it. And if you do a really good job, you get paid.
So 2 things. The first thing is I want to know, I remember texting you on the day that some articles came out about you. And I remember calling mom, and my mom said to me, I told him not to go on that fucking show.
She did.
I told him not to do it. And
she did.
The other thing I remember is just feeling immense pain for you because I've known you since I was fucking 5 years old.
Yeah, sure.
And I've always been drawn to you because I like you, like your energies, like you're a hustler, you're a mover, you're a shaker. And like you did culturally change things. And I remember just being like, my mom's friend's Charlie Walk. Like I'm friends with Charlie Walk. And and I remember just being like, fuck, like at that time I was,
I never thought I was Charlie Walk.
Dude, you are Charlie Walk.
Do you understand? I just thought I was out there trying to like, my former bosses at Sony, this was so hard. I'm like, market share. What have you done for me lately? Okay, that's number one. No fucking celebration. What are we getting next? So I've been trained to be sort of like
this robot,
selfishly insecure. I've worked like 300 number one records, like 50 Billboard Hot 100 records from 0 to 1, like from 100 to 1, or I just so I now I'm a little bit more relaxed. I'm like, I did some good work, but even today, amazing work. Like, listen, like 4 years ago, I believed in this brand called Poppy Soda, which was like, I believed that America was fat, and I believed that people loved the taste of soda, but how could you, instead of having like 40 grams, have 5 grams and do it with vinegar, apple cider vinegar and whatever else. And these founders that I met and my friend Rohan Oza, who did Bywater and Smartwater, like they were doing this thing. That to me felt like a star. There was no sales. It was like a $13 million valuation or something. And you believe in that. And that's sort of like, I try to like shift my mindset of like, well, instead of Ariana Grande, maybe it's Poppy.
Yeah.
And that just sold to Pepsi for $2.2 billion a few weeks ago. And that was really exciting for me because I was like watching this, developing this star, watching the team grow it. And, I had a front row seat for the most part, but you were part of that journey of picking the hits, except these hits were, physical brands that you ship one way and they don't talk back at you. Yeah. And people even tried, like, forget me even getting hit on many years ago. So Olipop, the competitor to Poppy, went out and tried to get lawsuits from people saying the claims that Poppy made probiotic stomach up, and they had lawsuits. They were trying to kill Poppy in the press for market share. Yeah. Crazy shit. So forget killing the person, they were trying to kill the brand.
Yeah.
Okay? Like it's a fucking war out there.
Yeah.
But as long as if you've been through the war and you survived the war, you know how to manage the war. Do you understand? You know how to compete at the highest level. So I think the lessons learned back in the day, you're talking about your mom. Yeah, I shouldn't have gone on the TV, but I did.
Yeah.
I went on the TV show. And I was on a TV show with Diddy and Khaled and Meghan Trainor and Fergie, and I saw a lot. And I remember fighting with Diddy in the middle of a show one night when I'll say this, I've never said this on a interview I've done, but we are live to tape in Culver City. And they gave Diddy executive producer credit and power. So the whole thing was, we have in-ears in our ears. We have producers telling us what to say. I'm like, I'm not fucking listening to anyone but myself. It was the finals. And I wanted this girl, Javaya, to win. And Diddy wanted this girl, Candace, to win. You know, I don't see color. I see stars. But it was different at that time for Diddy. So we're in the huddle and the cameras around us. And they're like, Charlie, who do you think should win? I'm like, I think Javaya should win. She's a superstar. She's got this reggae, Lauryn Hill vibe. And Diddy goes, Javaya can't win. Diddy can't have a white girl win. No, I think God. I'm waiting for Ashton Kutcher to come out. I'm getting punked.
Yeah.
Like this my mother and father are in the green room watching this live to tape. I'm like, what do you mean Diddy can't have a white girl win? He's speaking in the third party about himself. He goes, this show's about black excellence. Candace got to win. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I actually stopped the taping. I go, this is fucked up. And then he and I got in a fight who had a bigger plane. And then I said, you sell Ciroc for a living. I sell Famous. And, you know, it just became like a war out there. And then I left the set and they made us like sort of make up. And then the show continued and they cut that and that never aired. But that was the time in which I knew I should have probably not done the show. I should have just stayed the course of being a record executive. But then again, at the time, maybe my ego was gonzo. I remember like I did do some dumb things like cutting my boss out of a picture with the Weeknd one time just because I felt like I wasn't getting the credit and dumb shit. Like, really? The boss is who pays the bill. The boss brought you in. You don't need to do that. And I apologize, boss. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you out of the picture, but I did. And so there was some things that I did. Ego is the number one killer in any business, especially in the music business. And I acknowledge that. So you learn from the mistakes. But yeah, your mom was like, Charlie, you don't need to do this show because your mom's on Fox and it was a Fox show. So she had all the inside information of like, you know, the promo she saw. She promoted the show. I went on her show to promote the show at night on Fox on Wednesdays. So, you know, the 4 on Fox. See you there. I'm Charlie Walk. Join me, Diddy, DJ Khaled, Mega Trainer for the 4 on Fox.
Oh man, you know what? It's the thing about ego is like you go into Alcoholics Anonymous and the program's all about ego deflation. Like that's all it is. It's like you have to deflate your ego in order to live like this, like calm, peaceful, happy, joyous, free life. That's literally one of the main parts, right? Is getting honest, living with integrity, and destroying the ego. Yeah. And you know, I'm curious, like during that time, like cancel culture was like just getting started, and it was a CEO or an actor or a musician getting canceled weekly. Once or twice a week, someone big was going down, getting canceled. And there was no due diligence. There was no innocent until proven guilty. It was like, he says that, you're guilty. She says that, he's guilty, no matter what. And so you get canceled, right? Then your whole fucking life gets blown up. Mm-hmm. How do you survive? You have a wife, you have kids.
Well, the only thing that keeps you going is, you know, you have kids that you got to take care of and they got to see a happy face. They got to see positivity. They can't be scarred. Yeah. I was not going to allow it happen to me to scar them and have memories that prolonged any schoolwork, friendships, activities, entrepreneurial vibes, or whatever they were thinking and doing. I had to support it and put the game face on. But when they left that house, how many years did it take you to get sober?
Took me 6 years.
Took me 6 years to get out of my depression.
Yeah.
Not suicidal, but motherfucking sad.
Yeah.
And lonely. And thankfully, I really knew one day I was going to get either fired or, you know, hit just because I was so successful. Yeah. I was the target. I was the top dog. I always made sure that socially, this is going to be interesting, that I had real friends that weren't in the music business. Thank God I did, or maybe I'd be dead. Yeah. So what kept me going was the family, and then my real friends that didn't even know what I did for a living. So there was no fake dinners or conversations. Most of my friends were in real estate and they're lawyers, but none of them. I made sure and fought for non-music industry relationships, subliminally knowing one day I would get shot. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that saved me. So I didn't end up like being this lonely boy out of it, but did most of the people in the music business dump me? Fuck yeah. Did I have all my female artists to my house that wouldn't post or say things publicly about me, but they're asking me for advice privately? Does today one of the biggest superstars in the world talk to me through her father? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But we move on. We move on. And I think, but it did take your 6 years and my 6 years. I mean, I have more energy than I've ever had even running the labels back in the day right now. Like I'm in the zone. Like I don't even know. My wife's like, what the fuck's going on with you? I don't do drugs. I'm not fucked up. I don't take Adderall. I don't really drink that much. I don't mind it, but I'm just this human being that works out every day. I have more energy in the last year than I've had my whole life. And I don't know why. And I think it's mindset. The mindset is dripping into the body, which means confidence and focus, right? And no longevity shit. Someone said, you shooting yourself up with the peptides? No, I'm not. Are you taking vitamins? No, I'm not. Did you have your face done? No, I didn't have my face done. Why do I have hair? Why do I have hair in my head? Because I took minoxidil in my 20s to make sure my follicles didn't close, and Propecia. You understand what I just said? I took it as a preventatory measure.
Dude, look at this. I've got the 2-car garage going.
No, you look good. You're going to be fine. And
Thanks.
I know we'll talk after off camera on how to handle all that. But I did things. Those are the things that I did. But I have more energy than ever before. So like, I don't know what would have happened if I stayed running the label. Would I not look as good, be as sharp, or be sort of rejuvenated right now? Who wants to run a record label in their mid-50s and deal with the shit? The business has changed so much. It's more about market share. There's no real artist development.
So many bots.
It's a different game. It's very hard for the artist to get played unless they can really play a venue that they can sell out. And I'm talking about thousands of people per night is how you make money. If you look at the breakdown of an artist, they're giving 20% to a manager, they're giving 5% to a business manager, 5% to a lawyer, and then they're giving 10% to the agency. They're left with 55%, maybe sometimes 50% of touring tickets, and then Live Nation. You got to sell a lot of motherfucking tickets to make money. So you got to be the biggest star in the world. And there's only a few of them. So for me, that's just not. I want to make money.
Yeah.
I want to like make money. I want to make a lot of money. So for me, it shifted a little bit. And like when I was running a label, it was a really exciting time. But I think if you would have a real conversation with anyone really running a record label right now, it's not so fun.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're all getting shot left and right, just because of budgets and the fact it's really about market share and catalog management and breaking a few new that have already broken, where you're getting a licensing deal with them versus owning the masters and owning an asset. Does that make sense? So, Taylor Swift has a licensing deal. Drake has a licensing deal. All these artists now have licensing deals, right, for market share purposes for the majors, but they're their own businesses. The labels don't get a piece of their touring. The labels don't get a piece of their merch, publishing. But for the most part, these artists have their own, smart ones have their own entities, and they make their own money, and they use the labels for advances in dollars like a bank and for whatever the market share purposes. So it's different. It's just different when I was doing it. I like to go in and take someone that I believe in and break them. Yeah. Get in fights and get bloody and get sweaty.
It's not like that anymore.
That was like, that still turns me on today, of like taking something. I guess I assimilated to like a brand in its seed format of like something coming out that's new and exciting and that's a great star, the jockey of the horse of the guy or girl that made up the brand. I'm like, I believe in you. I like this. Let's go break you and create value. So I'm still that guy. I'm not a late seed boy. I'm a guy that comes in and wants to like help you become famous. Brand or whatever I feel I think I can affect to move culture to create transactions.
Yeah, I think Poppy is a perfect example of that. I mean, you got in when it was worth, being valued at $13 million. Definitely was not even worth $13 million, but it was
correct
valued at that. And then, just to what I know, you're involved with his Arthur and Sons with, Joe Isadori, and it's an amazing Italian restaurant in the West Village.
Well, you do that to scale by having multiple stores, and Joe's going to sell this thing in a few years. I didn't do it to say I own a restaurant and you get to have 20% off. I did it because we're in the Hamptons and we can have J-Lo have her brunch there, and McCartney came and your mom came and Jimmy Fallon's my friend. He came, and then you take all of that and you mix it up in a bowl, and then you're doing 10 of them. and then you sell that, right?
And he's doing a tomato sauce too.
And the tomato sauce, so that was interesting. And Joe's the star. Chef Joe Isadori is a Michelin star chef. We play Sinatra and Jay-Z, and you mix it up and you go sell spicy rig and have a nice time. But interestingly enough, I now listen to the universe, and my wife said to me like 4 weeks ago, "Hey, when you're at Whole Foods, can you pick up this really cool like probiotic coconut yogurt called Coconut Cult?" I'm like, what the fuck is Coconut Cult? You got to hear it. This is crazy. And they were sold out. They have other coconut shit, but they were sold out. I'm like, girl, they're sold out. So I can't find it. And then she tried to get on Amazon. It was a delay. She couldn't find it. 2 days later, a venture capitalist firm who saw that I was involved in Poppy said, "Hey, we'd love to get you involved with Coconut Cult." I'm like, I go again. I'm being punked, right? And they've been in since the beginning. They control the SPV. I look at it. I look at I can't believe what's going on. Orders for 6 million a month, they can only fulfill 3. So there's a problem manufacturing, right? So this raise is to fix that. This is probably the next Chobani, in my opinion. And I don't have to they don't need me. They don't need the Charlie Walk effect. I tried to sell that. Didn't matter. They don't need me to do what I do. But my point is, it came to me, and then before I make an investment, this is the same way I tested records. Yeah. Nothing's changed. I start posting it. Me fucking eating it, putting it in the fridge. Hundreds of DMs. Mostly women and some guys saying, "How did you get it? How do you know about that? That's my favorite thing. I take it every day." Fighting over the flavors, chocolate. I'm like, And then, so that was my test on making an investment and then bringing other friends into it. And that's the same way as breaking an artist. You're breaking a brand that's happened to be, I'm healthy. Yeah. So I'd rather maybe do that for something that makes people feel better and look better. That's healthy for the environment and for them and vice versa. And with great founders, it's the same way you would think about Post Malone or The Weeknd. Does that make sense? Yeah. Applying the same skills to something that doesn't talk back at you. You can ship one way. You can expand distribution and turn it to a $2 or $3 billion company and have a fun ride with good people that aren't going to try to shoot you and kill you because you have that special chip. So that's where I've shifted a lot, right? Yeah. And I've accepted like that's who I am, and I get excited about it. And that's the natural evolution of like when you do get shot or things happen to displace you in life. It's like, how do you get back up? Well, you acknowledge who you are and then you turn it the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, for me, doing this podcast was kind of similar to that. It was like, you fucking Google me and it's like murder trial and sex with hookers and stealing a Chanel bag and like all these things.
You may have stolen the Chanel bag, but the other stuff is bullshit.
Yeah. Regardless, it all did happen. And, some things.
I never cared because I know who raised you.
And
that's it.
And I think for me, it was like, the last like couple of years, I've like had this internal struggle myself. Was like, how do I get my story out to let people know that like, yes, these things did happen, but yet I was sick and suffering. I was in the throes of OxyContin addiction, Xanax addiction, cocaine addiction, alcohol, like you name it. If there was a line of Parmesan cheese, I probably would have snorted it at a certain point in my life. You know what I mean? But I felt that this podcast for me is a great way to have conversations with people who have been through hell and back and continue to fight, because a lot of people in the country suffer from addiction or have been very successful in business and have been shot, like you said, metaphorically, and they can't get through it. They don't get back up and they don't keep fighting.
And you have to fight. When I got shot years ago, I didn't fight. I put my head down because it was a weird time. And then you watch Elon Musk, like last year in Rolling Stone, like 35 people went after him. Yeah. He harassed them and assault. He said, "Go fuck yourself."
Yeah.
And nothing happened.
Yeah.
He said, "Go fuck yourself, money grab motherfuckers."
Yeah.
And so do I wish I did that back in the day? It was just a very different time.
It was different.
I think now you have to use your voice and say, if you're with me, Scott Borchetta, who found Taylor Swift years ago, said one thing to me: either you're with me or against me.
Yeah.
You know what I say? Either you're with me or against me. That's it.
Yeah.
If you don't like what I'm posting, don't follow. Why do you follow me?
Yeah.
I see you. I look at my stories. I get thousands of people looking at my stories. You know, there's so many haters when you scroll up. Why are you following me? Why are you watching me? It's fascinating. Why are you watching the Charlie Walk show?
You know what's like, to go off that point, is like the cancel culture came at a time when like social media was starting to really blow up. Like the power of Instagram, the power of Facebook, the power of TikTok was really starting to come about, where it's like, you could say whatever you want on these platforms and it goes viral, and whoever's on the other side of that stick is getting screwed. No matter if it's true or not. And I think now that culture is starting to shift, like kind of like what you said about Elon Musk. Like people said, oh, he harassed me. He said, you know what? Go fuck yourself. No, I did not. Fuck you. Do something about it, because I didn't do that. And then it just like,
bring it.
Yeah. And then everyone stops. And you know, I've always looked up to you. I respect you tremendously. And I think it's like, I was always drawn to you as a young kid, because your brain is just like, you don't get to be Charlie Walk without something in that brain just being different than everyone else. And the way you attack things and the way you carry yourself, like, I always think you're very confident. Obviously, I didn't see you that frequently after, after 2017, but from what I see and what I've seen of you as a kid up until now, like, bro, you don't quit. You never fucking surrender, and you'll always keep fighting. And like, I think in life, that's the most important thing.
My thing now is to help people. So I quietly just help a lot of entrepreneurs, including my children, which are all entrepreneurs.
Your kids are studs.
Just get behind them and help them and open up doors and let them close it. My job is to help you. I open the door.
Yeah.
You got to close it. And that's what I've learned along the way. And I quietly just love helping people. And then I get involved either financially or from equity positions when I believe I can actually make a difference. So it's a different kind of pressure, but it's not the pressure when you're inside a company and you're competing with inside the company. People want to kill you.
Yeah.
Right? I felt that my whole life being inside these competitive companies. I just don't give a fuck about that anymore. What I do care about is being right about cultural things that are interesting. I remember, and this is a guy you should have on, Adam Goldberg is this kid that founded Pop-Up Bagels. And I met him in a parking lot using a restaurant's like oven to boil and bake these bagels, or rip and dip bagels. And I just thought this was the greatest thing in the world. Like, he was reinventing the bagel, hot bagels. And I met him in the Hamptons in the parking lot of Calissa one morning. I'm like, this is amazing. And I don't know. I posted them and I posted them and I posted them. I didn't get anything. I didn't put money into it. And, you know, they just had a very big exit, and there's going to be 150 stores. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. And my point is, like, I have to acknowledge why was I in the parking lot with this guy at 7:00 in the morning? Because something led me there.
Yeah.
Right. And so why are you on this podcast? Because what happened to you led you to be able to be the voice of many. And even hopefully people that are addicted and fucked up right now can listen to this and say, you know what? They can be you.
Yeah.
There is light at the end of the darkness. There always is.
Always.
I never had a doubt, straight up, as painful it was for your family that you'd be sitting here. Never had I knew it. You just needed to get through it. I never had a doubt, because you're always a winner. Winners win. You just had to get through it. But there was never like, I never went to bed saying, I feel bad for the pain your parents, my friends, were going through.
Yes.
But I knew in the back of my head I could sleep at night. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, I think
I said that to them.
I think that was the struggle for me too, was that like going through addiction is like, it's a very selfish disease. And when you're in it, you're not thinking about the consequences of what you're doing to others. Like, I didn't care about the consequences of what were happening to me, but I also didn't care about the consequences of like my mom. Like my mom, she would sometimes yell at me and it would come out of anger, but then like through a lot of like therapy and like healing that my mom and I have done, like when the doors are closed and she gets emotional and she'll say, she was like, I was never angry at you. I was afraid. And I'll never forget this. And the therapist said to her, she said, what were you afraid of? And she was like, my mom doesn't cry much. And she starts hysterically crying. And she was like, I was afraid he was going to die.
That's fair.
And you're like, then you're sitting there and you're like, holy shit, my actions have consequences. And it's not about like, oh, I took money from my mom and spent it on drugs. It's like, no, like it was about like I was so close to death and I was so close to jail so many fucking times. And I didn't care about that. And my mom, she didn't care about me getting in trouble. She was afraid of how it was really going to end. And like you said, I think my goal for this whole podcast, dude, is like, I hope one person just watches this and it helps them. And it just helps them be like, you know what? Like I'm going through it right now. I'm addicted, or I just got fired from my job. I made a mistake. Like I'm going to get my ass up off this fucking couch. I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. I'm going to go hand out my resume, or I'm going to go start a podcast, or I'm going to go do some entrepreneurial thing. I've always wanted to start a bagel company. I'm going to go and change the bagel industry.
That's what that kid did. That's what everyone that I have been spending time with had an idea, had a vision, and they identified the greatness inside them to execute that. And those are the people, honestly, I fuck with.
Yeah.
Anyone else that's not like that, I'm more interested. I'm curious. Let me say one more thing before we go.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Someone called me a man baby the other day, or a man child, when I was in Miami. And I guess I am. And what I mean by that is I love the youth. I love the culture.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I like meeting new people. Most people my age say they have enough friends. They're good. I don't have enough friends. I'm meeting new people every day, learning. I'm doing a big charity event in a few weeks for the girls of Tanzania. There's a very famous model today who is putting bathrooms in the schools of Tanzania because there's no bathrooms for the girls. So if you have to go to the bathroom, or if you have your period, girls miss weeks of school in Tanzania. So we're building bathrooms in their schools. Can't make this shit up.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm in. What do I sign up?
Yeah.
And my point is, what if I didn't take the call and have the dinner with Flaviana and her charity and her people and sit and listen?
Yeah.
So you take the meeting and you're, because I'm curious. And now she's becoming a really good friend of mine. She's a world-class global superstar, supermodel who has some businesses I'm going to look at, right? Whether it's makeup or hair, whatever she's thinking about, she's going to show it to me. And if there's a deal to be made, we'll make a deal. What if I didn't take the meeting? Take the fucking meeting.
Yeah.
Show up, be curious. That's what I do all day long. I think it drives my wife crazy sometimes because she's not as curious as I am, but I am.
Yeah.
And a lot of it stems from a lot of the younger relationships I have with young entrepreneurs that are building whatever they feel like or they're supposed to be building, and I can get behind and help it. So that's kind of like where we are today. Heads clear on what my efforts should be, what they need to be, and how we find that path and follow that path to success.
Bro, you're an inspiration. If anyone wants to follow you, at Charlie Walk.
Yes, sir.
He's always letting everyone know what he's up to. You're an inspiration, bro. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. And I'm so glad to see you healthy. You look amazing.
Thank you.
Your skin's amazing. I want whatever you're putting on your skin. Let's get it.
I just put face lotion on. My fiance Mia, about a year ago, I hated lotion. I don't know why. And I was it's PTSD from when I was a kid. My mom she would slap sunscreen on, but she put sunscreen on and she'd go like,
right.
So I hated lotion. And then a year ago, Mia was like, you gotta put lotion on. I didn't like the smell of it. I didn't like the texture of it. She got me this lotion and I really like it now.
Well, let's put an affiliate link of that lotion up on your podcast and get an affiliate percentage. Let's go.
You got it. Let's go.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Charlie.